All right, everybody, welcome to my 24-hour marathon to raise funds for Armada's documentary. More like a movie. I said this is like an actual movie. Like, I think you can actually call this a Smash Brothers movie. I'm here with Dr. PP from Video Game Bootcamp. Hey, man.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, man. First of all, I wanna thank you for hopping on board with this for me. I'm gonna. Awesome. I'm gonna interview Dr. PP for a little bit before he has to do some stuff about the documentary, about his Smash career, and a couple other things that you guys can ask on the chat. So, first of all, Kevin, I wanna ask you one thing. What's the one thing that no one has ever asked you about Smash? I wanna be that person.
Oh my goodness. We started off hard, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes.
One thing no one's ever asked me about. Let's see. I think a question I'd really like to be asked, but I've never been asked. No one's ever asked me, how should I think about something? How should I approach everything? What's my general framework? Everyone always comes to me with a specific problem, like, how do I beat Falco's lasers? How do I practice on my own? How to, this or that? But those tend to be only shorter term fixes, and I think if you step back and look at the bigger picture, and I end up talking to people, and you end up talking to them so long that you end up having to try and fix their entire process eventually anyway. If people started working on their process of learning and improving, I think things would get better for them a lot faster than if they just kind of did what they kind of knew worked but weren't really sure about and got frustrated.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when people usually come for advice, they usually come with a very specific problem, maybe a matchup. So with that in mind, what's like the most common question you get in general?
Oh god, I'd say ever since the Evo hype and everything, my most common question's probably how do you practice on your own. I would say it's either that or what should I be practicing with Falco? They're kind of similar, and I'm still kind of refining what I want to do to practice on my own, but I'll tell you right now that if you're running all over the stage and you're spamming tech skill and you're killing the CPU, you're probably doing it wrong. And that's the practice that isn't actually helping because you're trying to have fun while you do it. And practice at first is a little effortful and a little bit hard, so you got to do your basics until you get amazing at your basics. And that's pretty much all practice will ever be, is just getting really good at your basics and then making it more and more complex. And that's the short form of what I pretty much tell everyone. But it's it's what I go by and it's what I do, and I wouldn't tell anyone something I wouldn't do. I think it works well.
I see. So that's very interesting the way you look at Smash. I can already tell. Well, obviously I've been following you for pretty much for a while. One of the best metal players around. But I can tell that everyone who's like top 5 of their respective game, be it Brawl, Melee, or Project M, they all have like this really, really deep, inside of how the game works in an intricate level. It's not like we see the game at a point where it's like it's just a game. It's like more than just a piece of paper with codes.
Yeah, I mean it's an art form. It's a form of self-expression. It's something that you get to have, and regardless of what language you speak or your background, you come in and you're effectively an equal to this person sitting beside you, and you have to, outwit them, out-trick them, outthink them, in a 3 of 5 or a 5 of, or a 2 of 3, and it's something, and at that form, as a form of interacting with another person, having almost like a conversation or a battle or whatever you want to call it with them, it's something that certainly rivals anything you have in sports, and it's really awesome that we can do that, right in our own homes, right with people across the country, even if you have Wi-Fi or anything. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
It really is beautiful. So, talking about all the top players in Melee, what do you exactly think about Armada, not as a player, but as a person?
Actually, that's a really good question. I don't know Armada very well.
Oh.
I can talk about what I do know. I know Armada, he's always felt really rigid to me.
Rigid.
Like he's always, yeah, that's like probably not the best word, but it's the closest I have without knowing it better. He always feels like, it always seems like he's just like this incredibly structured dude, and there's like any deviation from that structure is just a bad idea. And what I mean by that, like, I'll use an example outside of the game. It's like, I hear, people want to like party and stuff a lot, or at least sometimes in Sweden or whatever, and they like Armada come and he'll like come and hang out and he'll play Smash, but he won't drink or anything. Like once in a while he will, but he pretty much just like never really drinks, and he usually just goes to bed, and like stuff like that is pretty much the norm from what I hear about. And so like, it's not that, and it's like he understands that like his long-term health is very important, and that like he's still enjoying having some fun playing the game and everything. But it's like it's like to deviate from that would be like a huge problem or something. And I don't really know Armada very well to talk about why that would be. But like in a lot of aspects of his life, it feels like he seems very rigid. But I think like that benefits him a lot too. Like it allows him to work very hard and set up good schedules, and keep a lot of like once he makes a habit, he really sticks to it, and it ends up paying off. Like if he has a certain eating habit, he could just probably like get a better one, and it would just not be that hard. Or a sleeping habit, he already has that down pretty well, and like his training habits obviously are very good, and that's what allowed him to do really well for so long. So I think like it can pay off, but I also think like there can be times where it can hurt him, or he's a little too rigid. But generally, I think like it's working pretty well for him.
Now, we all know that people refer to Mewtwo as a robot. Will you say that Armada is a cyborg? Perhaps?
That's a funny question. I honestly think that Armada is like new Mewtwo. That's like the simplest way I could express it. It's like, it's not quite the same, but it feels a lot of the same. Like I watch a lot of old Mewtwo, and Mewtwo now is very rigid, and he's not deviating well from his structure in the game. But when I watch him back when he was good, as he says, he was more comfortable deviating from his structure and more comfortable flowing with the match. Whereas when I watch Armada now, he's when he was playing a lot more, he was more comfortable breaking that structure somewhat. But now it seems like he's going into like current Mewtwo stuff a little bit, but he seems to be pulling himself out of that, so that will be interesting. Regardless, I think that there are a lot of similarities between them, but obviously like, to say that Armada is just another version of Mewtwo is obviously, kind of insulting to Armada's individuality. So that's not really what I mean. It's just I think that a lot of the ways they think and how they regulate themselves is really similar. But of course, Armada has his own way of going about doing that, and I think it's worked really well for him.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess I can agree with you in the fact that when you get to that point where you're playing against the actual top 3 in a single game, I don't think you have the luxury to play a rigid style. I think that you need to be able to adapt consistently on the spot, because people, when you play people on that caliber, they really adapt on you every step of the way. And I feel that with the time, that there's this one thing about being a top player that I've always disliked. It's the fact that you get so comfortable in your position that you stop trying to actively look for new ways to improve. It's like you get on this position, you get on this throne, you get on this nice seat, nice room, and then you think to yourself, man, I'm good at this game, why should I, improve more? Like,
right.
There's no point on like, I know this works, I'm just gonna keep doing it. I have this couple set of options. I'm comfortable here, not moving forth. But then you play someone like who acknowledges that spot. He's like, I know I'm good, but I can be the best. There's a big difference between that, and I think that all the people that are starting to get good, or they're already good, or they're the best, whatever title they can have, I think that they all went through that phase at least one point. And that you mentioned it, I think it's really important, because it means to people like me that, hey man, you're not crazy. Other people think that too. But now, since Armada is basically a very rigid person, as you put it, do you think that when he was at the top, because you had the chance, I'm pretty sure you had the chance to play him when he was at the top,
Yeah, I've played him several times when he was very in practice.
The most out of any of the top players, barring Mango, right? How many times did you play him in total? I believe you played him at Pound, one of the Pound Grand Finals.
I've played him at Apex 2010, which is the first time we played. I think I took a game, actually. I was really surprised. I played him at, was the next one Pound? Yeah. So I played him at Pound 5, and then I played, and it was obviously 3 sets, of which he won the first one, and then I won the second 2. And then we played at Genesis 2, and he beat me. Let's see, when was the next one? Apex 2012, I believe, was the next one, and he beat me. And then we played that summer at Smashers Reunion. He took the first set, I took the second set, he took the third set. And then we played in Apex 2013. A lot of people still remember that. Now it's getting more recent. He took the first set, I took the second set, he took the third set. And then we played at EVO. I took that set. That's the only time we played then. And I think, yeah, that's been it.
That's a lot of times. Now, what's the difference between playing him every time? Does it change for you in any way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, two people, when they sit down on one day, there are a ton of things going into that. So when they sit down again, even if it's 5 minutes later, they already argue that they're different people than they were before. To wait so long, people can have a lot of different experiences. People can become different people in 6 months. That can affect your game a whole lot. So it was definitely different sitting down with him every time. He brought a very solid game every time we played, no doubt. But I would definitely say that I was a lot more variable over the years than he was, and so I would say that I was a bigger variable as far as I know. But I mean, his consistency, the good part of the rigidity, as I said, was something that I usually expected from him. But he had developed some very good mix-ups for me after I'd beaten him at Pound 5 that lasted him for years and years. So he didn't need to change a whole lot against me for quite a while because I was being pretty variable.
I see. So when was I see you mentioned Genesis, and Genesis is a pretty old tournament. So is Apex 2010. Now, when was I'm surprised.
That was Genesis 2.
Just
to make sure. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know. But the thing is that I was surprised when you said yourself that you were surprised you took a game off of him. So that leads to my next question.
Oh yeah, at Apex 2010, yeah. So
when was the period of time where you thought of yourself, I'm getting good at melee?
Oh, I've had that thought several times, and every time I turned out I was wrong. I thought the first time I allowed myself to think, because I used to be extremely hard on myself. I never gave myself credit for anything. Real big problem. The first time I allowed myself to think I was good was when I switched from blue to green Falco. When I decided I was actually good enough, I was doing well enough in North Carolina, I was beating everyone consistently, and I felt like I was really improving, getting close to the level of the top players that I was really respecting a whole lot. I could tell I was starting to approach it, and that's when I said, okay. I think I woke up one day and I said, you know what? I think I'm good enough. I'm going to switch. And there was a lot of inherent confidence in that, and so it made me feel a lot better. So there is significance to why I play green.
Oh.
Yeah, little known fact. Little trivia for the stream.
That's a really big trivia. I had no idea. Because in my opinion, I enjoy Green Falco the most of all of them. So I don't know. I just like the color.
Yeah, at the time, there was no green Falco. No one had the green one. Zoo had blue. Shiz had white, and Mango usually switched.
Mm-hmm.
So I played blue because I wasn't ready to be my own Falco yet. And actually, I picked blue because Zoo was green when I started playing. So I was mad that Zoo switched. But then he switched to blue, and so when I was like, all right, when I get good enough, I'm going to be green, I'm going to be my own Falco, and then they'll see. And so that's what I ended up doing. But yeah, ever since I made the switch, I would say I thought it again. Probably after beating. I don't know. I don't really feel too proud of myself after Apex 2010. I think, even though I took a game off Armada, I wasn't real happy. After I beat Mewtwo King at ROM 3, I'd say I started to think it, and I'm not going to lie, a lot went to my head after I won Pound 5, and it took me a really long time to kind of tone my ego down a little bit after that point. And I'd say I hadn't thought it for once I started breaking myself down from that, I hadn't thought I was good until I went back and really watched the matches where I played well at Smashers Reunion when I played Armada in Europe. I was really proud of that, and I think that's probably some of the matches where I played well were some of my best play to date. So that's probably, I would say, that's the last time I really thought it. Like I was just like, man, that was really good of me. I can't say I've thought that too much since. So I'm working on getting back to that for this summer.
That's an awesome whole lot of story. I knew you had this very interesting story because the thing is that when you look back at the top players, they all have this really easy to tell where they come from. You know, you have Mewtwo, he's been around forever. You have Mango, he was around, you know, just around Evo. You know, you have all these milestones where people were around at that point and they just provide their own piece of the story to this movie we call Smash Bros. Community. But then your story is like, where did PP start? You know, like I personally,
a lot of people don't know, and it's partly because I don't go around telling it a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So hopefully in this interview we can get some insight on that. All right. So when you mentioned you were beating players in your region consistently, when was this? Like what period of time?
I could not win a North Carolina local. Lawser kept beating me if the people under him couldn't. He kept beating me until the first time I beat him was actually out of state at the first tournament I traveled to, tipped off 4 in Georgia in January of 2010.
Wow.
And that's the first and last time Lawser and I have won teams at a tournament. There's a lot of interesting trivia about that particular tournament. I also beat Kage 3 times that tournament.
Three times?
Yeah, pools, winners, and losers, which started years and years of him hating Falco and playing me. I mean, I love Kage, but he was so sad when he saw he had to play me again. He was just like, God dang it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I mean, I love Kage. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Okay, yeah. After that tournament, I never lost to Lawser in tournament again. So the first local after that was in February of 2010. I just beat him then. I think the videos might even be up from that, but I just kept beating him for the whole year. He kept trying different stuff, but it just didn't work. And I would say I didn't start beating Hungry Box. Like he was from the south, and so he can count. I didn't start beating him until 2010. It was Pound 4. That was also 2010. Yeah, okay, so I beat Hungry Box 2 months later, after I beat Lawser, and at a North Carolina tournament, regional. It was called Herb 3. We had a series called Herb, Herb, for a little while.
I actually do remember that a little bit, back in my Lurkin days.
Yeah, no, that was a great series. I wish we had kept that up. Some really awesome stuff happened to those tournaments. We got some stories, but it ain't about that right now. So then Hungry Box and I kind of went back and forth for a while, and I'd say pretty much after Pound 5, like I think I beat him at ROM 3, and then I beat him at Pound 5, and once I had those 2 wins, I just kind of kept going. Like we were back and forth. He might have had the advantage on me for a while, but after that point, I think I pretty much beat him every time we played.
Wow.
So I'd say everything kind of came together around the end of 2010 when I propelled myself pretty much into the top.
Now, what was going through you that year? You know, like what changed, for example, from the PP in 2009 to PP in 2010? Like, was it? Well, I'm gonna let you answer that.
Okay, well, I'd say that it was a continuous rate of improvement. I was practicing. I was thinking about the game. I lived, breathed, ate, slept, pooped Melee. It didn't matter. I did it all Melee every day, and so I wouldn't say the only thing was different was that I had more experience. I had more. I think the only difference I could say outside of me just practicing a ton was I was back at home in 2010 and training with Twitch more, whereas I wasn't doing that as much in 2009. I was away then, and the only other difference might have been is I was talking to Cactar by then. I've been off and on with him for a really long time.
I see. That's actually like. Now, will you say that when you won Apex 2014, 4 years after You started this really big training regimen. After you won, did you think to yourself at that point, right, when you were holding your trophy and people were chanting your name, do you think I'm the best at this game right now?
No, no,
Really? Okay.
no.
Why?
Because it's the same reason why I can't call you know, anyone that's had a short reign good, anyone that's had a couple good wins good, anyone that's had a good tournament good, anyone that gets like, you know, a win on any of the top players one time good. You know, it's you consistency is our measure for good because there are so many things that can make performance variable. We just opt to choose who is most consistent as good because it's too hard to figure out what makes someone good otherwise. You just can't define it. The best way you say is, oh well, look, see there, it's happening. That's good, but that's going to be different for people. and it's funny to watch when you say, okay, well, tell me who's good. And if you ask, and it's funny, you know, even if you just want to take an example like in Melee, say ask a West Coast player who's good. Well, I think Westball's good. Okay, why is Westball's good? Well, he's good because he tricks people. Okay, well that's interesting. Then you go to the East Coast. Who's good? I think Hax is good. Why is Hax good? Because he manipulates the game well. So right there, you have two different criteria for good. So if people aren't going to agree on, you know, who's good, even on like that kind of level, then you're not going to get anyone agreeing on like who's good if they win a tournament, if they win 5 tournaments, they win 50,000 tournaments. People are going to say, well, he's still not manipulating them right, or he's still not playing the game as well as he could. He's not good.
I see, but
so I guess that's a long way of saying. So for me, I think that me winning this one time means that tells me I have the potential to keep doing this. That tells me that is paying off. My thinking, my work is paying off. If I want to tell myself that, that I've really earned something, that I've really worked for it, then I need to say, okay, I need to come in and play some Melee I'm really proud of. And if I play some Melee I'm really proud of, then I'll do it. And I'll tell you right now, I didn't play much Melee I was really proud of at Apex. And I don't say this as a disrespect to my opponents, but I say this as like I'm frustrated with myself. Outside of I'd say my Marth matches with Mewtwo King and my Falco when I 4-stocked Mewtwo King on Fountain in the grand final, I wasn't very happy with how I played. And people, it's a fighting game, so you can look at it from other side. If we asked Mewtwo King what he thought about those games, he'd said he'd play bad. So it's a hard call to say either way, and these are just how I felt about like my own mix-ups, my own play while I was playing against them. But obviously, there's two sides to every story. Basically, my new goal for my new way of thinking about playing is I shouldn't be allowed to go out and celebrate. I should feel like if I'm training at home and I'm training really hard and I feel like I'm getting better, that means more to me than if I'm going out and I'm kind of winging it and I'm getting away with winning Apex. I'm not proud of that. I'm proud of putting in my work, seeing my effort pay off, and really, watch my character on the screen do well and watch myself express myself better through that character. And I saw some of that at Apex. So I'm proud of myself for that. I'm proud of myself for some of it coming through, but I want it all to come through like I know it can. And that's what I'm waiting to be really happy about.
That's a wonderful answer. I congratulate you for that. Very, very deep thoughts. Now, I see that you call Smash an art. Now, I'm not here to question that, but I'm here to ask you. Now, when you tell your friends, I'm talking about friends that don't play Smash. They don't go on Facebook and,
the muggles.
They don't go on Twitch. They don't go on YouTube. They use YouTube to listen to music, stuff like that.
Weird.
Like if I'm on YouTube, I'm not listening to music. I'm watching a Smash tournament.
I'm watching slideshows of cat videos, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, come on. Okay. All right. So now, when you tell these people, when they're like, "Hey, Kevin, what were you doing on the weekend in January? Like, I saw you, not be home for like 5 days straight. I was, just video game tournament called Apex. Oh, how did you do? I won. Oh, that's cool. Now,
yeah, go ahead with your question. Yeah.
Do you actually tell them like what is Apex? What do you actually do? And what is their impression on you playing video games? Not at a point where you sit down on the couch at your house and you play video games for fun, but at the point where you're actually sponsored for this game. You travel around the country for this game, and you devote time to this game to a point where it's not even a game anymore. It's an activity. We can actually call it sport. We actually have a term for it now. It's called electronic sport, esports. Now, do you actually try to explain that to them in the fact that I'm not playing a game anymore? I'm actually competing in my sport, what I do.
If depending on how close I get with these people, I'll sit down and break it down longer. Most people I'm not talking to long enough to explain that, so I'll kind of work with them. I'll use terms that they'll really understand. I'll say, okay, well, I went there, and I'll say this many people went. So I say Apex, they were like, well, 650. I think 650 went for Melee. So 650 people went. And so the pot was big. They understand that a lot of people went means it was big, and they understand that a lot of money means it was important. So I tell them, like, I start with that because that immediately hooks them and say, oh, well, this is an important event. He is showing a lot of skill, dominating a lot of people. So I start with that, and then if I get to talk to them longer, I'll say, well, yeah, I really like it. I really get to express myself through it. It's like if I I use a lot of analogies, so I'll either say that I would, it's like if I was painting, and it was like if I had to learn a lot of techniques to paint. I had to learn how certain colors interact, just like I learned how my moves interact with each other and how they interact with the opponent's moves. So you can draw a lot of analogies like that, and I'll say, well, if you think chess is an interesting battle for between two minds, then I would say that it's like this. Only I'm pushing pushing some buttons on a controller instead of moving pieces. It's a similar idea, and generally people kind of get the idea at that point. It's still not the same, but because there's a lot of acceptance for things like chess or art or a sport, you can kind of work with that, and they get a pretty good idea of what's going on there.
I actually want to touch on the one word you said that really brought my attention, which was acceptance. Now, why we accept chess for what it is? Now, chess has been around for like a while. That's the best way.
A hot minute.
That's the best way to put it. It's been around for a while. Now, who at this point doesn't know that chess is played at a world-class level in many ways? A lot of people probably understand that. Now, when you actually mention it to someone playing video games for a living in a professional way, there's a lot of people that still are gonna go like, is that possible? Are you joking me? Is this 2014? 20XX?
Right.
I mean, I don't know, but like, I feel that we have a lot of way to go for getting what we do, esports to be in an acceptable level. But I think that we're closer every day, especially with everything we do in the Smash community. Because, okay, I'm sorry. Because the thing is that we need people that do not actually pay attention to what we're doing, people that don't actually involve themselves in this to actually accept it. It doesn't matter on a community level. It matters on a general aspect. Because, if you tell anybody, I'm a professional sport player, it doesn't matter what sport you're playing, people are gonna give you that look of that you're legit. But if you tell them I'm good at a video game, they're gonna question that first before anything else.
Right.
So I think that with everything we're doing, I think we're moving one step forth to that. So have you ever had someone question you on what you do? That was my next question.
Most people, they don't say what they really want to say, and what they really want to say is, you can't make a career out of that. You can't do that for 30 or 40 years and then retire.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone wants to say, but no one says it. And so if I talk to them long enough, I end up telling them how I can balance school and Smash, and how this is growing, and how I don't even have to really work because sponsorship and tournament money is just so good to me. And at that point they understand a little bit. I get pretty jealous, but it's still not the same thing. It's like, I'm still working part-time, ultimately. We're working for part-time money. And so what really helps is if you want to get this stigma gone, if you really want to help people understand, you have to I read something recently where you have to, I think it was Wife's article on Melee and on me, and he said, we don't need your Mangos, your Armadas. We need your D1s, your Progs, your Wifes, your community outreach. The ones, if you look on Prog and D1s to it, I guarantee you they have more followers than me, Armada, and Mango probably put together. They're the ones that are making things happen. They're the ones that are getting big people interested. They're the ones that are working with the CEOs of big companies. It's not the players. The players are important. Don't get me wrong. Like I wouldn't give up what I'm doing to be a D1 or a Prog because I think everyone has their role. But you can't. There is at this point there is no denial of the fact that these other people that we need to be figureheads to step up and to really grow this community. So people that want to commentate, people that want to outreach, people that want to fill some role that we don't even know exists yet. You should try it because now is the time, and the time is only going to get riper. So it's a good idea, and I also think that we got our work cut out for us. If we sit back and we do nothing, esports is going to become more accepted. I hear that they're trying to get League put in the Olympics next time around. I hear talk about that. I know that League and Dota are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're the ones spearheading this entire esports campaign for us. And whether or not the Olympics thing is true, it's the fact that that kind of talk is starting to happen. People are starting to think about that. There is some form of momentum for a national electronic sport, and with that happening, the breakdown of all the other esports will come along with it. The more it gets publicized, the more people understanding have it broken down, the more we can all benefit from it. And I think that it wouldn't. So all the Smashers that play League are also kind of supporting Smash in a way. And even though it breaks my heart to see some of the good ones lost to it, I know that we're getting benefit out of it as well because because the more that's pumped into that game, the more that all of esports really benefits.
Now, you know who actually plays League of Legends? Now that you mentioned top players, someone who actually played League with one time, Mango.
Oh yeah, he does play.
That was very funny because out of all the people that I thought will play League, I personally thought that you will never play League, and you don't because I see you as someone who's very dedicated to what they do. So I don't see you straying to their side, much less Armada.
I played one game and that was it for me.
Maybe Mewtwo can, maybe just to make maybe. But then Mango, I was like, why Mango? That's really strange because I don't know. I didn't think he will enjoy not fighting or constant action games.
What it is it's a community activity for a lot of us. You can't get on a Skype call and still play Melee together. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
For when Melee wasn't doing so well, when most of Smash wasn't doing so well, Mango was picking up a lot of games. He was even playing Marvel and I believe Street Fighter at one point. He was playing a lot of different games. This is back when I talked to him more. And so I knew that he was picking up a lot of other games, and League was definitely the one he sank probably the most time into. I mean, he was making statuses even about, I want to say, StarCraft for a little while. Yeah, StarCraft. So he was picking up a lot of games, and because he kind of had it with Melee for the minute, so he picked up a lot. So it's not surprising. Mewtwo King always had the option to go to the other Smash game, and I was just kind of I guess Armada and myself are kind of try hard, die hards. Melee had us hooked, and unless the real life came along and slapped us in the face, we weren't willing to change because we're faithful to our one girl, I guess.
That's like the high school love of your life,
right?
Even if you're 25, you still remember that one time when it was 17.
Right. Yeah, your first kiss is always different, huh?
Oh man, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I honestly think that Smash 4 is gonna change everything for us. I don't care if the game, because it doesn't matter if the game is better, worse, just like whatever word you want to put in there. Compared to Brawl or Melee or Project M, it doesn't matter. For the first 2 years the game comes out, we are gonna play it.
Yeah, there's pretty much no way around that.
And I think that the fact that the game will now be able to play it online in a competitive way, because Nintendo now actually acknowledges that we play this game competitively, and now actually play it with no items online, which is a huge deal to us in a 1v1 setting.
Glory.
For glory. Now, it actually means that it means a lot more. I'm pretty sure that for us, actual competitive players that would travel, we don't agree with the fact that there's only Final Destination. But
yeah, he didn't quite get it right, but the effort was respectable.
But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the fact that the perfect setting wasn't emulated. What matters is the fact that he acknowledges, and that's a big deal because we were in the shadows for a long time. Remember back in the day when we will have Smash tournaments? That one Smash tournament where we had Street Fighter on the side, and people will be like, "You play a party game, bro?" Lol. Now we can look to them on the side and be like, "Man, we're MLG."
Yeah, what's up?
We're Evo. We're like in the same tournaments you guys are.
I
And
don't want to hear it anymore.
exactly. And that's such a big deal for us right now because especially with all these movements, we're actually trying to accomplish a lot more things than before. And now it makes me, move on to the next question I have for you. Now, for Smash 4, now let's say Smash 4 is huge, huge stream numbers, huge
Oh, here we go.
participants in tournaments. Now, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with Melee and Smash 4?
Melee and Smash 4.
What are you gonna do?
That's the question, isn't it?
That-
Oh man. Alright, well, the one thing, if I could walk away from that question saying only one thing, it would be, we don't know yet. Hard to say. But I'm not gonna just say that. I'll go ahead and elaborate. We don't know what the game's gonna be like for real. They're still gonna tweak it, as Sakurai made sure to mention at least once in his little direct. And I'm interested in what the final product will be. Regardless, I'm gonna play it. I'm probably gonna divide my time, and I really want to juice Melee for as much as I can because I don't know what's going to happen afterward. I will say that I would be extremely surprised if I liked that game more than Melee. I would be exceptionally surprised. With that said, I will probably, if I feel like I really want to pursue it enough as a standalone game, I will probably divide my time between both, and I will probably enter tournaments for both. I can't quit playing Melee. I can't do it. If I'm going to play Smash and Melee's there, it's going to break my heart to not enter it. It's been too long. I've been playing it. It'll be 7 years in June or July. I'm so sad I don't remember the actual day or anything, but 7 years in just a couple months. So it's too long. I don't want to do that. I don't want to start all over with a new one. But I really want to see what Smash 4 is like. I want to give it a fair shot. I put a lot of time into Brawl when it came out, and I ended up making the decision to stick with Melee after playing it for about a year. And I think with Smash 4, I'll probably stick with it for a little while, see how the metagame fleshes out, and then kind of make a decision based on that. But in the meantime, I plan on entering tournaments for both. That's my strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, out of all the newcomers that have been shown in Smash 4, who's like that one character that brought your attention? I'm personally gonna say mine, and because this is like the most obvious one. Everyone's gonna say Mega Man, but I'm not here to say Mega Man.
You're not there to say that.
No. I'm here to try Fox. Whoa. Now what?
Whoa.
Alright, so the very first thing I'm gonna do, this is like when I'm opening my Wii U, because I'm only gonna get a Wii U for Smash 4, right? I'm gonna get the Wii U out of the box, plug in on my CRT because of non-monitors in this house. Now, I'm not about that input, son. Now, go to training mode, of course. I'm gonna have Mutakin on the side to test the frames in person, on live, make sure everything's frame perfect.
God.
And then I'm gonna shine, press down B, shine, and then jump. If nothing happens, Fox the bad character, move on.
That's kind of like what my strategy is going to be like. I'm going to pick Mario and realize he sucks and then pick someone else. So I'm with you on that. I keep playing every Smash game. It works out the same way for me.
And then I'm probably going to try to wave that Chanel cancels. Alright, Spacey suck. Move on to someone else. Well, let's see how meta is.
He hasn't been confirmed, has he?
He's probably going to get played, man. It's just no reason he wouldn't be added. Because supposedly King Dedede, Snake, and Sonic were gonna be in Melee, and they essentially gonna move on to Brawl, because of time constraints. So it's pretty safe to assume those characters are gonna be back in. And even if they're not, I'm still gonna try Pit, Because Pit, what do you think about Pit in Project M?
Pit. I actually haven't played too many Pits.
Really? Armada?
I've never played him. I don't enter Project M tournaments for reasons that are outside the scope of this interview.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's not like that. I don't practice it. I mean, I have a lot of reasons to not enter. Wanted to like throw off melee game and stuff. It would take a lot to get me to start entering PM tournaments.
Okay.
I'll say that at regionals. I'll do locals and I might even do regionals, but I don't think I'm ever going to do a major PM tournament unless a lot of things change. But
that's very understandable.
Pit and PM, I mean, I've still played some pits, and he's pretty good. I don't think he's like broken. Like I watch Armada, and I'm just like, it looks like some of the stuff he's doing is pretty beatable, especially in neutral. I mean, obviously his punishes are pretty good, but most PM punishes are pretty good. So I don't really think anything about that.
No, I don't know. When I play, because I play Pit too. I main Pit in Project M.
Okay.
And so we've been talking with Armada a lot about Pit in general. And every time I play Pit against someone now, because I've been practicing the game quite a bit, I'm starting to get pretty good at it.
Well, you're already better than most people at PM then if you're practicing, because no one does that.
And people literally, the first 2 matches I play with them with Pit, they go like, Pit is broken. This is meta day. Because I make sure that every time I play with someone who hasn't played Pit, I dash them, right? Dash them, camp them, grab them, right? Chain grab them, downer, and then forward them off the stage, and then wall of paint them with forwarders to kill them like Jigglypuff. And then with the only side V, I have no jumps, right? So then I side V, go underneath the stage and make it on the other side, and then I taunt cancel. And then they go like, that character's broken, he needs to be banned. Which is kind of funny, but I don't think
guys, you're not helping your character's case with this though, Zero.
I know, I just do it because I enjoy trolling a lot. Especially in friendlies, but I don't know. Armada's pretty amazing at Pit, though. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean,
why.
his pit's really good, but I mean, if you think he's like really, really good, and like he doesn't usually drop games to Professor Pro in Melee, why did Professor Pro's Snake take Armada to like the last game, last hit in their set at that tournament?
I heard it was because Armada didn't play the matchup right at the beginning. But I don't know. I can't really tell you why. You know, I'm not Armada. I'm not Professor Pro. I can't tell you the exact why. But from other things,
I think it's partly because Armada just doesn't play the game very much. But I also think that like you can't. If the character was really that broken, he would just be able to coast on how broken it was, and it wouldn't matter.
Armada thinks that Pit loses to Spaces, both.
Armada thinks everyone loses to Spaces,
and then he beats them every time.
Yeah, I mean he's also like way more in practice than all the Spaceys. I don't know. I heavily disagree with how Armada thinks about Spaceys, but that's just how things go sometimes.
Let's actually talk about that. I'm interested in that talk.
Okay, well, Armada's famous quote is when other players or other characters play against Spaceys, they have to worry about beating Spaceys. And when Spacey players play other characters, they only have to worry about beating themselves in terms of like tech skill or whatever. But like if they just hit their tech skill, they'll just completely annihilate the other characters. And I heavily disagree with that because, not because Spaceys aren't good. They're very good characters. I have a tremendous amount of faith in the top 4 and kind of Jigglypuff. I don't really know what's going on with that character. I feel like, you know, a lot of characters could just be tapped a whole lot better than they are, and I feel like I feel like Marth's behind in the metagame. I feel like Sheik is starting to lag behind in the metagame, and I feel like Fox and Falco are still being pushed pretty well, and, you know, Hungrybox occasionally does a little bit more with Puff. So I feel like a lot of characters are just lagging behind a whole lot, and, you know, Peach a little bit now that Armada's not giving it as much as he used to. So I think there's going to be naturally a metagame variance there that we're not accounting for. But I also just think that when we have Marth and Sheik and Puff up to date, Spaceys just will not. They're still going to do really well. And I think like when I talk to a lot of people about tier lists, their tier lists are always changing. The Spaceys are always at different places. A lot of people like Leffen or Kirby Kaze or whatever. Everyone's got different opinions about, you know, where they're going, and like usually it's not Spaceys 1 and 2. And now obviously like I'm picking examples that work well for me. So I mean, there's definitely that you can say against me. But I also believe that Spaceys have some of the smaller ranges of the characters in the top tier. I also think their combo probably hardest of every character in the top tier. Well, I think Falco from any reasonable distance getting knocked off stage isn't too hard to edgeguard either, as long as he can't shorten his side B. I think he's not terribly difficult to edgeguard. And so I think Falco might be more easier to edgeguard overall than any of the other characters in the top tier. So I think there are some things about Spaceys that make them not inherently busted. Oh, and Fox is really crouch cancelable. There are just some mechanics that people don't fully abuse on them really well that they could, and I think that anti-Spaceys metagame just needs to catch up with other characters that are not Spaceys. And it's not even like they're running everything either. Like when we watch them play, in other tournaments, we're not seeing Fox on FD finals. We're not watching Fox Falco finals all the time. We're watching an array of characters. And if Spaceys were truly in a tier of their own, we'd see them dominating regardless. But I just really don't think that's the case. I think I think they are the most commonly played characters, and I also think they're the most fun. And what most people like. The speed of them attracts a lot of people to Melee, so there's a lot going into their popularity, and if they're popular, they're going to be good. And if they're good, then they're going to be more popular, so it feeds into itself. So I think there are a lot of things that contribute to the Spaceys being good, and just looking at them and saying these Spaceys are good, but they're messing up is I feel like as far as I can understand from what Armada says, it feels like a bit of a shallow assessment to me. And this is not a shot at Armada, it's just really frustrating to see that as someone that's dissected one Spacey a lot. And this is not to say that Falco is really bad. Falco could be the best character in the game. I actually don't have a hard and fast tier list because I feel like the top characters are all really good. But I also don't think they're just completely separable from everyone else, and I'd like to see all the other characters fleshed out more before making such a serious statement like that a reality.
I see. That's a very complete answer. I agree with some things you mentioned. Just how the top two characters, basically, it doesn't matter who's second or first. It matters. It comes to a point where people just go towards the character that's supposedly the best, and then they forget about everyone else. So the metagame is advancing for a character that people think it's better, and then of course
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and then the character keeps getting better because people keep working on that character. People find a counter for that character, then the mains for that character will find a counter to that counter, and then so on and so forward. That's I think that the reason that Spaceys are so developed is because so many people play them because they're entertaining characters to use, that so many people try to counter them, and then the Spaceys main counter the strategies again. So it's understandable why the character is more progressed than other ones, because everyone is working on them.
Right, there's definitely a whole lot going into it. It's are Spaceys popular because they're good, or they're fun and pretty good? There are a lot of ways you can tackle this, and that's that right there would take quite a bit to answer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it partly, there's really hard to answer the question kind of in general because our community is kind of small and not being pushed very hard, honestly. If it's the same few guys that are always doing really well at the tournaments, and they don't have many threats, they can get a little bit lazier. They know they can beat all the other guys, not too worried about outside competition, outside of weapon, and everything like that. So it's really interesting to note that our community, while it is growing, is still rather small and not being pushed to optimization. But even if it was being pushed to optimization, there are a lot of strategies that still evolve in that sort of time, in Marvel Street Fighter and the bigger guys like League and Dota and all them. There's still a lot of different strategies that evolve even with a huge community. So that might not be the end all be all, but I would say that we'd be putting a lot more pressure on a lot of suboptimal strategies to get out of the way, maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to say in general.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to say. And that's kind of my ultimate point is even though I heavily disagree, who really knows?
It gets to a point where you have to agree to disagree. I say. It really gets to that point.
Yeah, I respect his opinion. He's a very good player and he's a smart guy, but I feel like walking away from it saying who really knows is not really a good answer either. I would rather try to come out, understand my characters better, understand how they should all be working together better, and come back with an argument like that than just walk away from it saying we should agree to disagree. I feel like that kind of stops a lot of inquiry into it, and I feel like we could learn a whole lot more if we didn't leave it at that. Not to be disrespectful to the other person, just because it would be good for us to try and have our own answer.
That's true. That's what I actually mean with saying we have to agree to disagree, because it gets to a point where you can't really argue these things, because it's like, well, for one, it's really complicated, and for the other one, it's like it's opinion too. So it's like, damn. But I remember this one quote that Jason or Mewtwokin said about Brawl. This is like back in the day. It really got me. Because it applies to this case too. He said, I think the reason Meta Knight is so far ahead from other characters is not really because Meta Knight is better as a character than the other ones, like significantly. It's because at one point people realized that I was doing so well with the character because I was putting so much time into him to make him the best he could be with my own techniques, that it got to a point where everyone just wanted to use Meta Knight, and then everyone started working towards Meta Knight, and everyone just forgot about the other characters. And that's what he actually said, and I agree
It all
with
builds
that.
on itself.
Yeah, it just keeps. It's like it's a snowball momentum thing, I say.
Yeah, and it's hard to pinpoint just that cause. There are likely a lot of other causes for why people think that. And it becomes really hard to say, if Mewtwo never played Brawl, just somehow, would people have the same opinion? And that's like a really hard question, because like, what would have happened then? Would everyone just thought he was really broken because like Mewtwo went around teaching all the Meta Knights how to like play? So like, what would have developed for the character then? He
Yeah.
probably wouldn't look the same today as he would if Mewtwo played, and that's really interesting to think about.
Yep, I agree with that completely. Now let's move on to a whole different topic here, because we cover a lot of aspects about Smash in general, not as well, not just Melee.
Mhm.
Now, what would you say is the least known fact that people know about you?
About me.
Yes, it can be anything you want. Anything you want.
Oh my goodness, Zero. These open-ended questions.
Hey man, they get to the point.
It's not a fact about me. Oh. Well, I got one a lot of people, even that like I talk to a lot, don't really seem to know. I have two other siblings besides Twitch, my younger brother.
Really?
Yeah, most people don't know that. They're both sisters and they're both younger than me. One is Twitch's fraternal twin, and one is, her birthday just happened in March. I think she's 20 now.
Yo, you trying to get them in Melee though?
No,
No.
no. There's a reason that's a well-kept secret, my dude.
Wait, you don't want them to know the Smash community?
I don't want the Smash community to know them. I don't want them to know the Smash community. Everyone stay apart from everyone.
Okay, that's an interesting thing that you say. Do you actually try to keep things separated? Like, say for example,
It's not very hard.
No. I'm saying that. Are you a different Kevin, for example, when you're to college? Are you a different Kenny when you work? Are you a different Kevin when you would go, for example, to Smash Tournament? Do you keep things separated? Like networks, attitudes, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's related, and so I think I kind of be myself regardless, and I try to work myself into a person that can be pretty much the same regardless. But I still think those environments are inherently different, so they're going to make me act different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. Do you think it's necessary to be different though between every type of activity?
I mean, I still act pretty much the same regardless. So I would say it's personal preference. I don't. It doesn't really matter one way or another. It's up to you to decide.
Right. Now I actually have this very different question now. I remember back in I was riding in a carpool with Jason, right? And the experiences, right? So I have my head like, sticking out of the window, New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, because the car had like no space on the back, so it was like for some reason we had like a drum in there, occupying the whole thing. And Jason was like in the middle of the, in the front seat, on top of me. And so he was complaining the whole time because he had no place to sit down, so he was like using his arms to, hang himself between the, the seats, and then he was like, with one leg, he was like, I don't know, it's just really hard.
This is some Smasher car ride stuff right here.
Yes, it's the
Survival of the fittest.
legendary stuff. So he was complaining about his back the whole time. So I'm like, Jason, have you ever played against Isaiah 64? He's like, yes, he force stuck me with no effort. And that leads me to my question now. Have you ever played another Smasher in a game that, for example, not a Smasher, but another player in an activity that, mainly a video game, where you felt like, what do I do? Like, say for example, maybe played a Brawl match, maybe played a Project M match 64, maybe another game. Have you ever felt this feeling that you're like, I feel so, behind in terms of skill level with this person that I'm just like, what do I do? It's like you feel the ladder feeling again, that you probably felt in the first days you play Melee, where you had this imaginary ladder that you had to go up, to reach your goals.
Right.
And then you see the other ladders in the other stuff.
I think ever since I started with Melee,
Mm-hmm.
I've either played in my life other video games I played when I was younger, so I would not get destroyed too horribly, or I would play other Smash games, so the skill transferred well enough for me to not feel like that. I can't say, and I've played some fighting games where that's kind of happened to me. I think I've played. What did I play? I think I played a little bit of Street Fighter and Marvel with people that were like kind of good in my state,
Mm-hmm.
and it's happened to me. But it doesn't really, like, I know what's going on when I'm losing. It's just like I don't know how to perform any input or do anything really. It was like I was like that kind of noob. It's like I can tell what you're doing to me, and it's just like I have no idea how to really play this game. But I've like watched it some, and so I can kind of tell what's going on. Whereas like when I played Melee, I was so focused on performing my inputs, like, even when I was like seasoned and I was like, well, not seasoned, but even when I was like playing the game a lot, or I was like starting to, people would just beat me really hard, and that was like confusing because it's like, okay, well, I know how to play the game, and I'm still getting destroyed. It's like I would not know how to play the game and lose. It's like I don't really feel like I'm getting too destroyed. I feel like I'm just don't know what's going on, so I kind of take myself out of it, and I'm like, well, this is kind of funny to watch. I don't really get upset about it. But I will add in that I've never gotten beaten in a game so consistently. Well, I mean, I've been beaten in sessions before and like other things, like but anyway, the worst beating I ever got in a session ever was in anything was when I sat down to play with Mango at Pound 4 in some friendlies. That dude whooped my butt so hard for so long in Falco Dittos. That was Mango's peak. It was ridiculous. I was still on my way up, so he had a field day with me. It was like 3 stock, 3 stock, 2 stock, 3 stock, 3 stock, maybe 1 stock, 3 stock, 3 stock, 3 stock. And it's like these are like almost 4 stocks that are 3 stocks, by the way. These are not like 3 stock and like 90% usually. It was bad. Like, he was whooping me, and he seemed kind of surprised that it was so easy almost. He was just he had a lot of respect for me, but he whooped me real bad. That's the worst I've ever been whooped in anything. But I didn't get upset about it. I was just like, okay, I gotta really try and do better this game. And I just like lead forward, like, all right, I gotta get focused, and then I try really hard to just get beat up. I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I gotta try again this stock, and I get beat up. Oh God. I didn't get upset about it. When someone's that much better than you, there's no point in getting upset about it. It's more fun to try and figure out what to do and just kind of be in awe that someone's able to do that to you when you're giving it your all, and someone is just you can tell they're just another level. That's kind of fun, and it's interesting, and it's a real challenge for me, and I kind of enjoy that more than back down from it, or think, oh, this character's stupid, this guy is playing cheap. I mean, like, whatever. If he can play cheap, I can play cheap. That's one thing, but he was just way better. It was fun. I don't get upset telling that story. I'm like, well, that was awesome. Yeah, I almost wish there was someone around now that could sit down in a friendly session with me and just whoop me real bad. I would get a lot. I would get a lot out of that. I would get a lot out of close sets, obviously too, like I have with people and pros. But getting whooped, not many times in my life I've just sat down and got whooped at something, because most of my life I've been winning games with like Twitch or my friends or whatever. But sat down, got destroyed. It was good for me. I don't lose anything a whole lot, so losing there was really good for me. And I try to remember that, every time I lose, it's like, okay, well, I really did need that. I needed to be humbled sometimes, so I'm glad that happened.
That's a great mentality to have. Like, even though you were getting stumped, to use the word, you didn't give up at that point. At that point, you were thinking to yourself, how can I make the best out of the situation that I'm going through? And I think that's the mentality that all the winners should have, or actually they do have. Because
they lose it somewhere along the way, as you've mentioned before.
Yes, that's what was my question. My question I wanted to know if you've been through that phase where you've been at the bottom, and then you rose from the bottom. Because that's important too. Because everyone remembers that time where you won, but no one really remembers. No one really remembers the time where you were struggling. Are
you talking about after I came up and then I kind of got full of myself, or do you mean a time when I was like still starting out?
No. I'm just saying in general how like everyone just remembers the time where you win, but no one really remembers the times before that. I'm trying to get more insight into the past people, because everyone knows everyone knows about you right now, but back in the day, it's a different, everything. So I think that in this interview we got a lot of insight on that. We're approaching the 1 hour mark.
Right.
Yes, I don't want to hold you on for too long, but
do you want to have me answer a stream question real quick, or?
This is what we're gonna do. Two things. I'm gonna ask a final question, then we're gonna select a question from the chat, and then we can finalize. How about that?
Okay.
All right then. Now this is a question that probably everyone's gonna enjoy. What is the most Smash moment time you've ever had in the Smash community throughout all these years? Now, when I say Smash time, is that remember that time I told you about Jason and I in the car, and you said that's a Smash community, right there.
Yeah.
What is that moment in your whole career where you literally went like, this is a Smash moment right here? It can be funny.
Oh my God, I've had so many.
Just pick one. Just pick one that you think will be impressive to know.
Let's see. I guess a good Smash moment. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to tell you an NC Smash moment, which is a little different than ordinary Smash moments. We're a special group of people. I'm going to tell you, this is a fun story to tell. So, at the university I'm at now, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, I did not go here at the time, but there was a tournament here a few years ago, and another guy hosted it, and it was called Getting in the Green. And this city's named Greensboro. A lot of people came. It was, a pretty good tournament. We held it in a dorm, and the housing people that really watch over everything here didn't like how loud we were getting, especially because there was a Roy player here that was beating one of our power ranked Foxes, and he almost beat him, and we got super loud for that. And so that's kind of whatever, but so this woman was like kind of looking for a reason to get rid of us, and she sees that some people had snuck in some of the old Four Loko, if you know what I'm talking about, the one that can kill you. Some people had snuck some of those in, just an alcoholic drink. For those of you not aware in the stream, I apologize. So like obviously that's not allowed on college campus, so like she goes and is going to call the police about it, and word gets around to us before the police get there, and the moment in time where you can clearly see Smashers, I built up to this because I would say that once the word cops was whispered, there was about a 5-second window where everyone was there, and then if you blinked again, they were all gone.
Oh man.
Smashers by and large are illegal, and if you don't believe it, I have memory evidence from that tournament. People were like, they're not even sure if they're coming, like, okay, we out, pound it, everyone's like leaving, like everyone's dipping, like it was.
Oh man.
Yeah, the stories from what everyone was doing at that point, we still tell those stories. It was crazy. So obviously they said they didn't want us playing for a pot, probably. So we put it in some girl's purse and sent her off running through the woods. Yeah, so it was wild. That's probably one of the most NC Smash moments we've had. And I think a lot of places have moments like that. It was wild.
Damn, that's like the legendary stuff right here.
Yeah, we got shut down. It was only like me, Twitch, Yay that were still like legal that were there helping to pack stuff up. It was like we had to move into an apartment to like finish it. So there were a lot of people in there playing. It was the cops came and shut us off when me and Ye were doing Marth Falcon Winners Finals in Stadium. I think it was like game 3 or something. But yeah, anyway, it was funny. It was wild. Definitely one of the experiences I'll take with me for a long time.
20 years from now on, I remember that time.
Yeah, I played video games and then I got the cops called on us. It was good times.
Oh man, that's crazy. Now, one question from the chat that I've been getting a lot, like I believe I just read like 10 questions about this one. I also got a couple tweets about it too.
Mm-hmm.
People really want to know your thoughts on Project M in general, and what.
Oh God, I shouldn't have said anything.
I know. People really want to know your thoughts about Project M. They want to know what you think about Project M, because some people remember the time where you say, "I don't want to go into this that much." No.
Yeah.
You gave out the wrong warning. You should have said, "I could go on for this forever if you want."
Right. Yeah.
You
I kind of dug my own grave with that one. I can't be mad about that.
All right. Well, people want to know your thoughts on Project M. What do you want to change about the game if you had the chance? And what's good? What do you like and stuff like that? You can just. I know that's a very general question. You can.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. I think I'll cherry pick a little bit of that.
Yeah, you could just give a general overview so you don't go on forever.
Yeah, Project M. And I have to preface this truthfully. I really like the idea of Project M. I really like that they're, trying to put a melee engine in Brawl. They're trying to, get the old cast, make the new cast, tweak some things, work on balance issues, add stages. Those are all wonderful ideas. I love the general premise of Project Melee. I have to say that first and foremost. I am a little more uncomfortable with how it's being executed. And I'm not saying that I have the perfect vision of it, but everyone's a critic, right? So that this would be a small version of my critique. I think there's a lot of different movements going on within PM. I think some people are in charge of one character, and then there's multiple people in charge of others for checks and balances. And I think that right there poses an inherent problem, from what I understand. Some characters get pretty good, then they get nerfed, and I think the nerf and buff system actually is pretty interesting. It's a lot like League, where there's always it's always like a new game. I kind of don't like it because I come from Melee, obviously, where I like things to be stagnant. It takes a long time to dissect the depth in anything, and I think changing it, you're changing how everything else works around it, and so. That's debatably not as much fun either, but that's kind of I can understand why that happens. My real problems come in when I start worrying about how a lot of things feel like they auto combo, when a lot of stuff in Melee didn't do that, when a lot of edge guards seem easier or harder with certain characters. Like I feel like Marth had an amazing edge guard in Melee, and because everyone has like a super long tether, or they just have really good big moves to hit him away, or they're just really good at getting back on the stage from the edge, that he's pretty much nerfed in all aspects now. I feel like Marth worked in Melee because he had more range, and if he didn't have more range, he had at least comparable or better movement, and he had a really long dash. Well, generally the moves in this game are bigger than Marth's if they're going to be slower at all. And so I feel like, and Marth can't really juggle at all like he could in Melee, and he definitely can't edge guard like he could in Melee. So I feel like he's much more gimped overall as a character. And I think that in relation to how Marth and all the other Melee characters are working in relation to the new characters, the older characters are just fleshed out more. And so it seems like they're better right now, but as we keep nerfing them to get the results we want in the game, we're going to end up hurting those that are putting all the experience and time in, because ultimately the goal of PM is to combine, a lot of the Melee community with a lot of like casuals and Brawl players and people that want to play every game that can get into it and want to make it accessible. But you're alienating, part of the Melee base when you're taking these characters that we want to be the same for a really long time, and we're changing them a whole lot. And we're changing the stage a whole lot. We're changing how every other character interacts with them because we don't like that they're, doing well at all. It wasn't enough that, some species might be getting to finals of every tournament, but it's a problem. It would be a problem if like there were all species in top 8. Sure, that would be maybe a little more questionable. But if there's 1 or 2, I don't think it's too bad at like, in Apex. I think Apex had Mewtwo King and Def as the only species up there. And I think that's a pretty good sign of the healthy game, that they're still able to compete, but they're not dominating by any stretch of the imagination. There were a lot of new characters up there even. Of course, Armada won it by going pit and playing very well. But I'm definitely really concerned about, if they're going to overshoot this too far, so when everyone finally starts putting a lot of the game into Project M and they're understanding their character, to keep up with the Melee understanding, because I feel like when I watch a lot of PM players, I'm not seeing the understanding there yet. That's not a fault of the PM players. That's just a matter of they have to put the hours of practice in to really get that understanding and break it down. And also, perhaps, making sure the character is developed right. I'm less certain about those sorts of things. But I definitely really worry about we're going to take it too far. We're going to, nerf the character, so it doesn't matter how much more you learn with Fox, than you even knew in Melee. You're not going to be able to compete because the character's just gotten nerfed too much. And again, this is where a lot of conceptions of people and popular opinion are going to play into things, because it's kind of a fan-made game. So if all the fans think that it's ridiculous, that can be really easy to drown out people like, myself or others. I would say, well, wait a minute, let's give this a little bit of time. Let's develop the other characters first. Let's look at the fact that, they're really not dominating the game before we start making these kind of changes. And I would say that, that's probably, I guess among other things, like me not finding many of the other characters too fun yet for, reasons of guaranteed things or reasons of being kind of feeling like sort of knockoffs of the Melee characters, but not feeling like they're a complete character, like a cohesive character. I would say that that's pretty much my stripe with it, more or less.
I see. That's a very understandable question, specifically because of your position in Melee. Also, I really agree with everything you said about Mars. Mars does feel like, I don't know.
The fact that there is anyone from the PMBR talking about nerfing him worries me greatly.
Oh man. Alright. There's another question, but I think that we can, well, I mean, if you want to answer another question, you can do so, but I understand if you have time constraints.
Whatever. I'm taking an easy day. I'll answer another question.
Okay. A lot of people want to know, oh man. A lot of people want to know your thoughts in Brawl. A lot of people. I got a lot of tweets
about Brawl.
Yes. What do you think about Brawl? Do you spectate it? Do you your overall thoughts on the game?
Okay.
You can be honest. Don't. You can say whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I actually don't have a miserable opinion of Brawl. I think my Brawl opinion is the only thing that I've hidden better than my PM opinion. But that's not because I hate Brawl. It's just because, again, popular opinion is evil. I don't need people knowing that I think anything about Brawl, and even if I hate it or love it, I don't want anyone knowing. So. Brawl, I mean, I played it for when it came out until about a year later, really seriously as I played Melee. And I have a lot to thank Brawl for. I do. It took away a lot of movement options and other kind of punish options that Melee had, and it really forced me to play simpler Smash. And playing simpler Smash really helped my Melee game. It really helped me develop patience, which is very important in Brawl. It really helped me think about my hitboxes more. It really helped me think about what Smash is like and not just what Melee is like. And I think that was a really good thing. Like, if I were to play Street Fighter, I wouldn't start with 4 or Ultra or whatever the heck it is now. I would start with Street Fighter 2 because the game is simpler. Similarly, if I told someone to start playing Smash, they were like, what should I do to get started? I would say play Brawl for a little bit first, or maybe PM, depending on how you might think about it. But I'd say add in some Brawl so you learn patience, so you learn bare bones game mechanics. And obviously, I get frustrated with the defensiveness of it, and I and I get frustrated not being able to move because I'm sure many people have seen my Apex sets and seen that I move pretty well. So obviously this is something frustrating when I play Brawl. But and so I don't enjoy the inherent defensiveness, and I don't enjoy that the punishes are very nerfed. But I respect that it is more of a bare bones smash, and I think in some ways it's if nothing else it's good training. But I also think that it requires people to be able to really dissect the game and win a lot of neutral exchanges really well. And I think that going to the new idea of going to one stock is interesting because like you're still winning a ton of exchanges in order to win that anyway. So it's not a terrible idea because in order to win 3 stocks against someone, you have to win in a ridiculous number of exchanges, and you often aren't rewarded for that. If someone makes a comeback or USD, that's like you make an SD, and that's like 20 exchanges you might have had to had your opponent work to win, and so that hurts you so much. Whereas in melee and SD, like one stock is not a lead. So you shine them and then okay, whatever. it can be really silly sometimes. So I think in Brawl, playing really bare bones Smash can actually be very beneficial. I get extremely frustrated with the game. I'm not gonna lie about that. And I definitely don't think it's my cup of tea. But I like playing it sometimes as it reminds me that I don't need to overwhelm myself with all the options, and that playing bare bones Smash is a good thing for me and for others.
That's a very, very enlightening question. I think that we all need to go back to the simpler roots at times, to develop a backbone of gameplay to further step it up. Alright, Dr. PP, Kevin, Nanny, I want to thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great day for what's left for you, and deeply appreciated what you did here.
Alright, great. I hope the stream enjoyed it, and it was a pleasure having me on. Thank
you very much, man. Now, before we just leave you with anything else you would like to say for everyone watching the stream before you leave?
I don't think I have anything too special for the stream. I'd say, if people are probably asking questions about how to get good, so I'll go ahead and answer those. Do really simple things. If you can't tell from my answer about Brawl, work on the basics, work on practicing your basic tech skill, work on making sure that is absolutely perfect, like not so you can do it in a match, so that you are quite literally perfect at doing your tech skill. Because being perfect at your tech skill means you can focus on observing what the opponent is doing because your hands already know what to do. And so I think practice is what's going to make you better more than anything else. So don't worry if you don't have another person to play with. Don't worry if you're in a bad area. Don't worry if you can't always go to tournaments. If you practice and you can see yourself getting better from practice, that's a rewarding feeling. And I think that I've been on a practice kick lately anyway to try and get people to do that. So a lot of questions people probably have about improving. If you practice, it will benefit you a lot more. Especially, even for those of you that think it might not like a mindset thing or something, you'd be surprised what practice and taking care of your body can really do for you.
That's a wonderful answer, PP. I deeply appreciate your time here, and I wish you have a great day, man. Thank you.
Thanks.